I gave my son everything, my savings, my house, my time. And on Christmas morning, he looked me in the eye and said, "You should go. The guests are coming soon." Like I was a stranger. But the real betrayal wasn't that he didn't want me there. It was what I found out after. And I didn't scream. I didn't fight. I let the law do the talking for me. I never thought I'd be one of those mothers who outlives her usefulness. You hear stories. Older women who raise their kids, help buy the house, watch the grandkids, and then vanish like a shadow in their own home. I used to pity them. Now I know how it happens. My name is Nadine Sawyer. I'm 70, retired after 41 years as a nurse. I raised my son Caleb alone after his father passed when Caleb was just 9. We didn't have much, but he always had enough. College, a used car, help with the down payment on his first apartment. I was always the backup plan, and I never minded. 3 years ago, I sold the little brick house I'd lived in for decades, $180,000 in equity, to help Caleb and his wife buy a bigger place for their growing family. He said he couldn't get the mortgage approved alone, so I signed on as co-owner. Moved in downstairs. No rent, no paperwork. "Just until we get settled," he said. That just became years. I had the basement unit, no real privacy, no say in how the house ran, but I cooked, cleaned, watched the kids, paid the water bill, even when no one asked, because that's what mothers do, right? I didn't want thanks. I just wanted to belong. Every year, I told myself, this Christmas will be different. This would be the year they invite me to the table, not just ask me to serve the pie. So I bought a soft red sweater, wrapped gifts, and baked my late husband's favorite cranberry loaf. I wanted to feel like family again. But the thing about giving your whole heart is, you don't notice when someone starts to cut it out piece by piece, until you look down and realize there's nothing left. And still, I smiled, because I didn't know the worst part yet. That was coming. Christmas morning was quiet, the kind of quiet that feels too still, like the calm before something cracks. I carried up the cranberry loaf, the same one James used to love, wrapped in foil and tied with twine, a small gift bag in my other hand, just some coloring books and warm socks for the grandkids. Simple, thoughtful. I even wore the red sweater I bought last week, thinking maybe I'd finally be seen. When I reached the top of the stairs, I could already hear the voices, laughter, clinking glasses, the TV humming from the living room. I paused, brushed the lint off my sleeve, then knocked lightly on the kitchen door. Caleb opened it. He didn't smile. He looked surprised. Not happy, not angry, just caught off guard, like I was the last person he expected, or wanted, to see. "Hey, Mom," he said, scratching his neck. "Hey, listen. You should probably head back down. People are starting to arrive soon." Just like that. No Merry Christmas. No glad you're here. Not even a thank you for the loaf I was still holding. I blinked. "Oh, I just thought I'd drop these off. The kids might want them." He didn't even look at the bag. "Yeah, I get it. But she's got everything planned. It's kind of tight. You know how she gets." I knew exactly how she got. I smiled. That tight, small kind of smile you give when your insides have already fallen to the floor. "Of course, I'll head down." And I did. Quietly, holding a loaf of bread like it was a child's drawing no one wanted to put on the fridge. Let me pause here. To every woman who's ever been pushed aside in a house she helped build, have you ever felt that? That shift? When you go from being the one who held everything together to being treated like clutter? If you've lived it, share it in the comments. I know I'm not the only one, and if you're still holding it in, maybe today's the day to let it out. Someone needs to hear your story too. Back in my room, I didn't cry. Not right away. I made tea, set the gifts down, opened the blinds to let in the light that never seemed to reach this part of the house. And that's when I saw the neighbor across the street wave through her window. She didn't know what just happened, but I waved back anyway. Because sometimes the only thing that keeps you from breaking is remembering that someone, somewhere, still sees you, even if your own child doesn't. The cranberry loaf sat untouched on my kitchen counter. I didn't have the heart to eat it. It just sat there like it was waiting for someone to remember what it meant. The house was quiet, too quiet for Christmas night. I made myself a cup of tea, but it tasted like nothing. I turned on the TV, some holiday movie I'd seen a dozen times, but I couldn't follow the plot. My mind was stuck in a loop. You should probably head back down. That sentence played in my head like a broken record. The way Caleb said it, the way he didn't even make eye contact. Like I wasn't a person anymore, just an obstacle in a hallway. I pulled out the old photo album. Page after page of birthdays, scraped knees, school plays, Christmas mornings. Caleb's smile, his tiny hand in mine, the same hands that had just pushed me aside. I should have cried. But nothing came, not yet. Instead, I opened the filing drawer, the one where I kept all the legal papers. I wasn't looking for anything specific, just something to do with my hands. That's when I saw it. The mortgage folder, thick, yellow, faded from years of sitting still. Out of habit, I flipped through the documents. My name, my signature, the notary stamp. Then something stopped me cold. A refinancing addendum, dated last year, with my signature. Except, it wasn't mine. The loops were wrong. The slant, the pressure, the way the S curved, it was off. I hadn't signed anything last year. Not on a Sunday. Not on my birthday. My heart didn't pound. It slowed, as if my body was trying to brace itself for the truth it already knew. Caleb had taken out a new loan, without telling me, without my consent. And he, or someone, had forged my name. I sat back in my chair. The walls felt smaller. This wasn't just about being unwanted. This was theft. This was betrayal. This was the moment I realized I hadn't just been erased from the dinner table. I'd been erased from the very foundation I helped build. And the worst part? He didn't think I'd ever notice, like I wasn't even worth the trouble of hiding it better. But I noticed, and I wasn't going to ignore it. Not anymore. The next morning, I called Joan. She was the kind of friend who didn't sugarcoat anything. We'd worked together back when I was still on my feet for 12-hour shifts, and she'd been a loan officer before retiring. If anyone could look at a forged signature and tell you the truth, it was her. "Can I come by?" I texted. "Mortgage stuff. Something feels off." She replied within 5 minutes. "Bring it, and I'll bring the coffee." Her house still smelled like burnt toast when I arrived. Same linoleum floors, same fridge covered in magnets from places she'd never actually visited. She didn't even say hello, just looked at my face and said, "Jesus, Nadine, what happened?" I handed her the file. She didn't speak as she flipped through the documents, just squinted through her reading glasses and spread the pages out like a jigsaw puzzle. "This signature," she finally said, tapping her finger on the refinance form. "It's not yours. It's a rush job. Sloppy. No pen pressure. Wrong stroke. And it's dated on a Sunday." She raised an eyebrow. "Banks don't notarize on Sundays. You know that." I nodded. My mouth felt dry, but the rest of me was strangely calm. It's funny. You'd think a moment like that would feel like falling through the floor. But for me, it felt like finally standing on something solid. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't overreacting. I was being stolen from. By my own son. Joan leaned back in her chair, folded her arms and said, "This isn't family drama anymore, Nadine. This is fraud, and it's criminal." There's a moment when grief turns into clarity, when the ache hardens, not into hatred, but into something sharper. Resolve. I didn't scream. I didn't curse Caleb's name. I just drove home, opened a new folder, labeled it in red ink. Evidence. That night, I poured myself a glass of water, turned off the TV, and sat in silence. Not broken silence, prepared silence. I started writing dates, payments, text messages, everything Amanda ever said, like, "Don't worry, Caleb's handling it," or "You don't need to come to the bank, Mom." I wrote it all down. I had given them everything, and now I was going to take back what was mine, without yelling, without begging, but with the quiet, deliberate force of a woman who finally saw the truth. I didn't tell Caleb I was meeting with a lawyer. I didn't need to. The law didn't care if we shared blood. It only cared about the truth. Elena, the attorney I met at the legal aid office, couldn't have been more than 32. Sharp eyes. No time for small talk. I liked her immediately. She flipped through the documents Joan and I collected, then said, without hesitation, "This is textbook mortgage fraud. You're a co-owner. Any refinance without your consent is invalid. We'll freeze the mortgage, initiate a financial review, and if you want to, force a sale." I didn't hesitate either. "Do it," I said. It wasn't revenge. It was recognition. For once, I wasn't going to let someone else decide what I deserved. The motion was filed that same afternoon. By sunset, I had a stamped copy in my hands. Official, weighty, powerful. That night, I didn't cry. I cleaned out my filing cabinet, found the deed to my old house, the one I sold for Caleb. The picture of me and him standing in front of the moving truck, arms around each other, like we were building something together. I didn't throw it away. I just slid it into a different folder, labeled Then. The days that followed felt still. Not empty, just quiet in a new way. I cooked what I liked, walked in the mornings, stopped bracing for text messages that never came. I started writing again, essays, thoughts, memories. Just for me. Then one day, I toured a small apartment in a quiet neighborhood. One bedroom, big windows, a balcony with a view of the old oak trees. No basement, no shared entrance, no stairs leading to someone else's party. I bought it, outright, with the money I had left. I didn't tell anyone. I just moved in, hung up a wind chime on the balcony, and watched it sway in the breeze like I finally had room to breathe. You don't need a courtroom to reclaim your dignity. Sometimes, all you need is to walk away quietly with your name intact and your head held high. They wanted me to disappear, so I did. From their plans, from their manipulation, from their control. But not from myself, and not from the truth, because now the truth was on paper. And the wind chime outside my window? It sounded a lot like peace. The forced sale went through faster than I expected. I didn't show up to the open house. I didn't need to. All I wanted was to be done. After legal fees and back payments, the balance was split. I got 50%, enough to start over without asking permission from anyone ever again. Caleb never called. Amanda didn't send a word. But one morning, a letter arrived, handwritten, shaky, postmarked from some P.O. box 2 towns over. Inside was a drawing, crayon, stick figures, 2 tall, 1 small, and off to the side, a woman sitting on a porch swing, holding what looked like a cookie. At the bottom, it read, "Grandma, this is our new house, right?" My heart stopped. It was from my grandson. I never asked how he found my address. I just folded the drawing and taped it next to the wind chime. A week later, Caleb showed up. No announcement, just the sound of nervous knocking at my door. I didn't invite him in. We sat on the porch, the silence stretching like time we couldn't take back. He didn't cry, but he didn't pretend either. "I should have stopped her," he said. "You should have respected me." I answered. He nodded, took it. For once, no excuses. Ethan misses you. I never stopped missing him. We didn't talk about Amanda. We didn't talk about the court dates, the money, or the silence between us. We talked about the swing I planned to hang from the oak tree, about school starting soon, about the kind of birthday cake Ethan liked. And that was enough. On Christmas morning, exactly 1 year after the day he told me to leave, I set the table for two. Ethan ran through the front door holding a grocery store poinsettia like it was treasure. Caleb followed behind, quiet but present. We ate roast chicken and laughed at old photos. Ethan gave me a new drawing, me, him, and his dad, sitting under the oak tree with home written across the top. I taped it next to the first one. And now, let me ask you something. If you've ever been pushed out, silenced, or made to feel like you didn't matter, what helped you reclaim your space? Leave a comment below. Your story might help someone else find their voice, because sometimes the quietest victories echo the longest.